FTI community, I am joined by one of my favorite visual arts ever, and I want to say that again, one of my favorite visual arts ever. She has over 100 original pieces that range from portraits of others to portraits of original characters. She is a giant mental health advocate who reflects the honesty of being human through their art. A very genuine and incredible person who always puts a smile on so many people's faces. You can see it through the interactions on messages, on DMs, not the same thing, comment sections. She is actually the first visual artist who is the creator of the week. FTI community, please help me welcome the incredible Mal to the Indie Studio podcast. How are you doing?
Doing great, and even better after that introduction. That was really nice of you. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing so well. I'm in the middle of a move right now, and it's really funny that usually behind me, I always try to like hide the mess behind me. But now it's my opposite problem where there's hardly anything going on. But yeah, it's a really fun time. Let's hop in the time machine and go back to the very beginning and kind of work our way towards present day. Your love for art started in an elementary school, but was really focused on and honed as like your soul craft later in life when you were gifted a tablet by someone who said, I have a hunch that you're going to flourish if you pick the art back up. From there, you found your own style, you were hooked, and you just started creating 2020. From creating portraits of others to creating the honesty that is being a human. There are dozens upon dozens upon dozens of original pieces for the whole FTI community to get lost in. But before we dive into the art itself, let's go to the artist behind the brush. Introduce us to Mal.
So it's really hard to just think about who I am. But some things that I like is I like to go to raves. I love coffee. That's really random. I love weightlifting. It has been a thing for years. I'm very spontaneous. I love doing anything and everything, just doing something new, which is really different compared to how I was when I was younger. I was very sheltered and also shy. So complete 360 or 180 or 360, I guess both.
With that, what's really interesting is in your like when you were sending the notes in, the raves grabbed me right away because like that's like 180 from being very like to yourself and shy. What really got you to like kind of like step out of that comfort zone and go to like the most high energy room you could find?
Yeah, so I'm going to start out with saying I didn't realize I had that change until I was at work and my coworkers were describing me, or they were describing our team, and they're like, Elena, you're really outgoing. Like, you're just a really big people person. I'm like, me? I was so confused. But I think it started when I entered adulthood and really was out on my own. And I was like, wow, the world is a lot bigger than I thought. Meeting new people who took me on these journeys. I was in California for a while and met some really cool people. One girl specifically opened me up to so many opportunities. So just experiences and people helping me get there.
When you were described as outgoing, especially the way you just described yourself kind of being like to yourself and shy, do you think it was maybe something you were doing subconsciously that also leaked into like the art you create per se? Because your art's very like emotion driven and you really create out of like not just one soul, like this is my art, this is what I want to create, but you touch on so many different emotions and you convey so many different characters to kind of like relate to the viewer. Do you find that maybe towards an audience you're very outgoing, but you don't see it because you see it reflecting your art, if that makes sense?
Interesting. To be honest, my art really follows me in real time. So for the most part, it is, if I have an emotion or something keeps coming to my mind, which can be memories, it's very present, I guess, what's in my mind. Hopefully that answers your question.
No, and that's the best way to take on honestly almost anything you do. We've spoken to Wednesday in the past and like Average James, and it's really cool to how they consider there are chapters in the music world.
Oh, yeah.
So it like relates one on one with like visual art because like each canvas you create is like a chapter or like a moment in time of who you were. I remember actually discovering your art through Instagram's Thread app. And the best thing about Threads was how I was like, oh, this is gonna be like a one and done. Like this is not gonna be something I log on to twice. But then my mom had Threads, and she was always telling me to go on Threads, so I went on Threads. And I remember you came across my timeline, and I just remember how popping the blue colors were, if that made sense. It was really calming, but it was so like in your face because you used it with such a nice like radiant background of like a night sky or like a galaxy sky through the combinations of colors, emotions, and messages. I can't stress enough just how much you're able to create the honesty of being human, especially being a mental health advocate and wanting to share your feelings with the world. Take the FTI community back to 2020 when you got your first tablet and you really honed in on art and started creating.
So first, I want to say that is so awesome that you notice those subtleties. As far as like the colors that I choose, blue really I have a lot of different favorite colors for different scenarios, but blue really is such a versatile color when I'm trying to express things. And I do low contrast, but also unnatural colors. So it really gives the feel of what you were trying to say. Going back to 2020, it's, if you go down my Instagram feed, you'll probably have seen it. It started off very experimental. The colors were all over the place, but it happened very quickly when I found my groove. I honestly don't know where that click was, but I started realizing that being creative is a magical place. Like, I love expression. I love uh, bringing magic to the world. It makes life feel more special that way. I'm sounding very gushy, but
No, no,
uh,
you're
it
okay.
just because life can feel very mundane at times, very you're living day to day. But whenever I get into art, I'm back into that place where it just feels more connected to the deeper part of the universe.
I what I really try to stay true to, and I'm very guilty of it because I can definitely let like my 9 to 5 mindset take over like who I want to be at the end of the day. But the moment I can actually just sit at my desk, catch up with what you're doing, catch up with what Timmy's doing, and just really get involved with the FTI community again, it makes all those like 9 to 5 stresses at work feel like the tiniest thing. And you're completely correct. It is that magical feeling of like we're meant to do so much more, but with the stuff we're passionate about. It sucks we all have 9 to 5s, but we can't change that. But it's really that like that really like that I don't know how to describe it. That I'm gonna use the word again, magical feeling of just being curious, being creative, wanting to give more to the world to describe who you are without fully describing everything about who you are. When you first started
Yeah.
really going from like portraits of others to like kind of creating like those subtle art pieces that like invoked emotions of just like what someone's brain could feel like, literally having like the face kind of like spread apart in some of your artwork. How did you kind of start that in terms of I'm gonna turn my art to an 11 and I'm really gonna focus on what I know others feel because I might feel this way as well.
That is an interesting question that I haven't thought about in detail. Again, I can't remember when that transition happened from going from just regular art and figuring out the basics, the foundations. Part of it, I would definitely say, came from inspirations. Again, I have bad memory, but if you look at my following, a lot of them are very special to me. I just love the story that you can tell in art. It, Part of it was expression. It was, how someone journals, how someone vents, how someone listens to music when they're feeling a certain emotion, which music is a whole nother thing for me with my listening and everything. But it was just a way to process in a healthy way. But one thing I think about often is I love turning dark emotions, dark events into something pretty. A lot of people have told me that my art looks like girly pop horror, and I like that.
Understood.
So I was
Yeah.
like, that's perfect. That's perfect. It's just bringing beauty to, like you say, the human experience.
I find, and you just actually said it as well, it's just like how much music can also play a role in the way anybody else can create if they're not a musician. So for example, some content creators, video producers, visual artists, they're inspired to create their next piece of work because of the music they listen to, the music they're consistently listening to, the music they discover. When was, not when, but has there been a moment in time, or maybe a specific like artist, a specific band, or even a specific one-off song from someone you didn't know existed really influenced an art piece?
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes I will listen. I have several different art playlists, and most of them, I don't know the genre of music, but it started becoming more popular through TikTok. It's like, I don't know how to describe it, vibey, also sometimes depressed, very different and indie in a way, I guess. And also like synthwave music is one that helps a lot. Just something that gets my brain waves going. And if you look through my profile, whenever Instagram added the feature to add music to your post, I was like, this music is a part of the experience.
Yes.
I will choose very specific songs to go with the art because it just rounds it out, really gives you that feeling. And then sometimes Instagram takes down that music. So it's like, there goes a piece of it.
There goes the story that completes the full picture, the full experience. Staying on that, actually, something that just came to my mind. Have you ever been curious to kind of like create cover art for a musician, or has the idea ever been presented to you to like where you're like, hey, I really love what you're doing. You would actually suit the music we create.
That is a good question. You're asking lots of good questions. The first time it became a possibility in my mind was honestly on Instagram with the stories where you can add your own and it's like a template. It'll be like the Spotify picture with the music or an album cover look. And I would put my pictures in there. I'm like, wow, that actually looks pretty cool. And I'm like, I wonder if anyone would ever be interested. The flip side of that is I don't usually do commissions, mainly because I'm not confident in my skills. I'm very comfortable with doing when it comes to me versus someone else's idea. It's very intimidating, which I am in the process of working little by little.
I actually think something that you take on really well, and I'm gonna probably butcher it, is the draw this in your style. I think I got that right. Because that trend
Yeah.
is so cool. I really saw it come to life through a visual artist named Zodian Knight. He's also part of the FTI community, and I was just so, I guess, blown away by how his original character could be drawn in like a chibi style, a more realistic style, a simplistic style. And then when you mentioned it to me, I was just like, oh my goodness, it's like a consistent trend. Talk about kind of like your beginnings with that style, or the trend rather, especially some highlights of taking part in them over time.
Yeah. So I love that trend, that challenge. When I first got into it was years ago when I first started my Instagram. I was like, this is so fun and you get to connect with people and you also get to honor that artist by saying, I love your work and this is how I perceive it. And like you said, chibi styles, so many different styles. It's so interesting to see how another person's mind works with the same idea. It's just so interesting.
Have you been able, I guess this is probably a question I don't even need to ask, have you been able to like create these like artist relationships that turn kind of like friendships through a trend or a challenge like that?
Honestly, bad memory again, so I can't exactly remember, but I do have a lot of artist friends, especially I'm going to name drop really quick
Of course.
Angel.Scape. I met them years ago and joined their Discord. And it was another like pivotal moment because it's like sharing ideas, being in the community, learning more things that are more niche. Um, and I think those relationships really help someone grow.
I find that with the being a visual artist, especially in um, it's about the way you're kind of taking that canvas to be your world, whether it's like adding on to your world or just kind of being like a one standoff piece. It can really help the person behind the art also grow because you're like, wow, I didn't know I was capable of creating this, or better yet, I didn't know I was feeling this way. Has there been moments along your like along the journey where like you created something and like of course you were proud of it, but you really learned more about yourself from the creation?
Yeah. So again, most of the pieces I make, I am processing my feelings while I make it. It's very healing. But one piece that comes to mind is, I forget the title of it, but it's the one with roses with the hands and they're dying. Um, it was about a lot of my past relationships. I don't know why, but almost 90% of them were very traumatizing. Um, and working through it, it was very symbolic, I guess. Very symbolic, but also the piece really helped me. And it's so surprising because it's a hard process to explain on how it helps, but it's been really healthy for me.
Good. And I think something, of course, every relationship's completely different. I'm not putting them all into one category because they're also completely different. You also learn who you are in these relationships, whether it's like a romantic relationship, a friendship, or even just like a relationship with a coworker. You really understand more about yourself. So again, like we're gonna probably put a quarter in the nickel every time I say it, but you're really defining just what it means to be human because you're not in one circle, or you're not keeping yourself in one circle to only designing one way. When we go from creating to the canvas to now publishing for like the world to see, I know firsthand platforms like Instagram and Twitter and TikTok can make you feel like you're posting into a void because it really makes you feel like it's pay to win. And as much as we'd like to say it doesn't play a factor in our creation process, I'd be a hypocrite if I said I don't think about it because I think about it quite often. It can be so hard to forget what started our passion, what started our curiosity for creating absolutely anything. From your perspective, talk about your creation to post and process. Do you judge the impact of your art based on the views or the likes, or do you create solely based on just, I guess, like another chapter?
That is such a deep topic because it has been very relevant. When I first started my account, it was for fun. It was to connect. And over time, I was a small account for a very long time, like 200 followers for like 2 years. And, but over time, I gained a lot of traction. I was on disability for a year, back in 22. So I had a lot of time for art. And I gained a lot of traction during that time. And I was like, wow, people really love this. And I was getting lots of messages about how it was really meaningful to them and like, thank you for representing this and things like that. But then I think in the last year or two, it really started backtracking. And I thought to myself, I was like, is my work not as good anymore? Do people not relate to it that much? But then I needed to remind myself, one, the algorithm is affecting everybody. Everyone's talking about it. Two, that doesn't, you don't want to disregard the people that are supporting you. Even though it's not as big as it used to be, I still have steady support from the same people, including you guys. And, online, it looks like 50 people is not a lot, but in real life, that's a huge thing.
It's an
And when I make
auditorium.
art, part of it is to make it, yeah. And part of making art is, for me, is to connect with other people. And because I love creativity in so many different aspects. Like I love cinematography. I love watching different movies and analyzing the color choices, the spacing, the spatial awareness and all that different stuff. Um, it's just a different part of the human brain, I guess, that I need to always I don't even know how to word this, but I need it filled, like a cup that needs to be filled.
I think what's really important for everybody to remember, and again, very guilty of it, is just putting, like, I guess just putting it out there that you're creating and you do gain like supporters and you gain friends off of it. But at the end of the day, you're also still creating and like collaborating with others because that's what fills your happiness. That's what fills your cup. And I know like definitely the 2020 to like early 2022, it was like the roller coaster. 2021 was the peak, 2022 was when it really started to dwindle. And I think it's really, I don't know if malicious is the right word, that might be too extreme, but just like how like TikTok's advertising will straight up say to you like, you want more views, give us $20. You want to be on a better algorithm on the explore page, give us money. Or they're like, congratulations, you've unlocked, and then insert what everybody has unlocked that day. Take advantage of by posting now. And I can understand from a platform that like supports artists like FTI where that might be enticing, but from a creator, like an independent creator's perspective, I can just see that always being the uphill battle because Instagram is aware they have visual artists and musicians trying to like grow their brand, get the recognition from others. But it kind of really combats why you create. You really always want to stay true to your values, but when you're consistently thrown like numbers and dollar signs and just I guess numbers overall, talk about the importance of creating strictly for yourself, like the therapeutic message or the experience you get when you create, or even in kind of like the, I guess, blueprints of creating.
Absolutely. I think so. One part that I think about is fame. You see people who started out small and had whatever channel they had, and then fame for any reason, and they start acting different. It doesn't feel genuine anymore. And I kind of understand they're trying to fit what their audience wants or they're under pressure. So I'm currently in the process of trying to remember that. With my last piece with that girl who's like melting into that block, I finally felt like I was really tapping into back into the reasons why I started art. Before that, it just felt very, it's not that I don't feel connected to all of my pieces, but sometimes I'm a bit disappointed because I didn't feel that special connection. The other thing with creating is that I'm on certain medications that kind of dampen my creativity. So it's been trying to figure that out as well. And I'd like to look back at my old art because, like you said, it's like chapters. So I start to remember, what was I feeling when I made that? Why did I make that? How did I come up with the idea? And it refreshes me to remind me why I started, which is to express, to just be creative in general and tapping into that.
And I think it's always just important to know at the end of the day, you're making the child version of yourself from years ago very happy, knowing that you did go the route of wanting to create again and start drawing again. Um, I know for myself, like 20 years ago or even 15 years ago at 10 years old, if I was like, you're going to do your best to connect with independent artists one day, I'd go like, nope, I want to be a WWE wrestler. I didn't make that version of Matt happy, but I'm definitely happy that what's going on right now is happening. And I cannot be more fortunate and thankful for creators such as yourself. Because although we connected from creativity, I really look at all of you guys as just one big friend group where we're all really connected to each other. And it makes me so happy. Like, for example, when you and Timmy connect, I love that so much because Timmy is such an incredible person and getting to see that other people notice that as well is indescribable. It's absolutely indescribable. From your perspective, how has the words of others really impacted you as both an artist and a person?
Honestly, I can be self-critical quite a bit. So hearing other people be so encouraging, but also saying how my art is impacting them in a positive way as a person, it's just encouraging in general because yes, doing a journey on your own can be empowering, but connections I feel like I'm rambling again. Connections make it so much deeper than that.
What I truly appreciate, and I would really wish a lot of people could also recognize it too. And you mentioned it with like a group of people online versus in person. Is if you had 10 people in a row come up to you and go like, "Loved your art, loved your art, loved your art, loved your art," your heart would be fulfilled. But you just don't get that same feeling from like a comment because it's just written words that you're reading almost in your own voice. In your friend group in real life, is your art something you share with them before it's even shown to like the digital world, to where maybe like you're like, hey, check this out, what do you think, and then those also uplift you or like empower you to be a better creator?
Yeah, so definitely. I always show it to my friends before I post because I'm like, and the thing is, they are not artists. They don't find themselves to be very creative, which I think everyone has it in them. They just gotta open up, but they're not artists. So I'm like, from your perspective on the outside, what does this make you think of? Or what do you like? Because you have a different kind of lens. So it's very interesting to see what their thoughts are on it. And yeah, even though they don't make art, they're very supportive and they, again, give me a different view.
I will always say till the end of time that you're always trying to impress your closest best friend, because like at the back of my mind I'm always trying to convince my cousin Joey that FTI and the creators in it are the coolest thing, and like he absolutely loves it, but to me I'm like, I'm gonna make you love it more. Like we're really getting this down. Do you have, I guess, like kind of any stories to where you you I guess kind of bumped into a roadblock about creating, or maybe like you bumped into like a roadblock of what your next step would be, and your friends, or like could be online or real life, of course, where they really put it into perspective, just like how impactful and how incredible you are as an artist.
Um, so what that kind of makes me remember is again with my medication or just my mental health in general, I have had a lot of ups and downs with that. And there has been times where I posted online, like, I'm taking a break from social media. And during those times, people were so supportive that they're like, you'll get right back on it. You just need a break. This is totally like, we support you no matter what. We don't need you posting all the time. And the people that are in my close friends, I can't talk, close friends groups, including you guys reached out that last time that it happened. And it's just nice to know that I don't have to deal with the social media pressure.
I think that that friendship that you can really build online with other artists, because they're experiencing the exact same things, can kind of like ease your nerves and calm your nerves, because it really just puts into perspective how we're all probably challenging, or I guess fighting that uphill battle with any social media platforms. Stepping away from, I guess, the artist world of Mal and into kind of like the day-to-day life, what really drives you as just a person overall? Like, what's like your reason at like, I guess, right in the morning before a shift or even on your off day where you're ready to take on the day? Like, what motivates you?
So that's a deep question. One part of it is I like the idea of being whimsical. It just feels like a better way to live. Um, Again, I've dealt with a lot of mental health issues and have dealt with severe depression episodes. And I try to think that I don't want to go back to that. I will do the work that needs to be done to live a better life. And it's not, progress is like this. It's not always going to be straight up. But with a lot of experience in my life, it just boils down to I'm a very spiritual person. So it's just, we live this life. We don't know what's going to happen after for the most part. I mean, depending on what your beliefs are. And I don't want to waste that.
I have a few friends who really plan too far ahead, and they don't enjoy like where their feet are now. They don't enjoy what's around them. They always want more out of like what's around them. And I can definitely appreciate that from like a stance of like you really want the best for yourself, but it's also important to know who you are and what you bring to the table present day. Because as you said, you never know what could happen. You never know at all. So being whimsical, being just very true to yourself is always going to be the most important. Almost every single, I guess, creation of art, or I guess everything that's created needs art to accompany it. Like music, content creation, fashion, graphic design always has a visual artist's touch on it to make the package complete. If you were to collaborate and I guess create for another realm like music or fashion, where do you self leaning towards? Like if it's a certain music genre or even like a certain genre of fashion?
Interesting. As far as music, I love I love so much different kinds of music. Like I listen to metal that's screaming. I listen to soft bedroom pop. I listen to the weird hyper pop and Vocaloids. So as long as it's not country, I guess I'm down for any music. And but I mean, I like some country songs. I can't diss the whole thing, but if sorry, the light went off again. If
You're fantastic.
uh, if it's for if it's for fashion, I like alternative looks. Again, bringing up whimsical gothic type looks. That would be fun. That would really test my creative side, depending on how they want to collaborate.
I there's a music artist in the FTI community, Mindy Sounds, and he is kind of like what you're describing, a very like versatile like artist where he can be hanging out in bedroom pop, or he can make something like kind of like an early 2000s nostalgic rock, but it has that like sweet hint of pop to it. I feel like your art with Mindy Sounds' music, whatever genre he's creating, that's a match just waiting to happen. That's a match waiting for the art to be created. What came to my mind, and I meant to ask this a lot earlier, is that your mascot is a clown. And I found that so interesting because you brought it to real life. Like you brought your persona to life. What is that kind of persona based upon? Like who is the clown and then who is Malin? I guess how do they connect?
All right, there's a few layers to that. The main reason it started was because like I feel like I am the fool with my luck in life and with my emotions. It's a bad way to look at it, but it's kind of to make light of it, to make humor of it. And the other part of it is the whimsy, the colors, how you can be silly despite the circumstances.
Have you
I don't know
ever?
what's going on with the
You're all okay. Everything is so good. What I really find so awesome about like for example your persona of the clown is just how it can always not always it can be the person behind the art amplified to like 1,000. For example, Dylan Lorman at Couch Apparel, he has two mascots. He has Ronnie and he has Blonde Boy, and they're both different sides to who Dylan is. But he's also been able to create two
Ooh.
distinctive people. If you were to kind of create, I guess, your own universe of different characters, would that ever be a thought in your mind, or would you really just like making pieces that don't necessarily have to make this over world?
I had dabbled a little bit in like original characters, if that's what you mean, that have a longer storyline or they connect. Honestly, just to be perfectly honest, it's hard to replicate the same character over and over. It's just another thing that I have to work on and to study. So at this moment in time, it's just as they come. If it looks like a person, that's good enough for me.
That's the perfect answer because Dylan also said that when he would draw the Ronnie skull, sometimes he's like, how do I do it? Like, how do I continue drawing it? That is so awesome. This next question kind of puts a bow towards the end of the conversation. It is my absolute favorite question to ask, and that is the topic of vulnerability. With your art being a direct reflection of emotions you felt in the moment or in the past, or a feeling that someone else has experienced, that in itself is very vulnerable. But looking at it in a positive aspect, how has vulnerability helped you create art and helped you kind of uh, make that next step forward as an artist?
I love that question. Part of vulnerability was a part of my growth as a person because back then I was shut down a lot. I lived in secrecy, not secrecy, but I was just very closed off because it didn't feel safe to be open. But with time, I really saw how special it is to, if you ask my friends, I am an open book. I talk about anything and everything. And I encourage others to do the same because part of it is you're not really living if you're having to hide or this is a negative term, but be fake. Um, just not living genuinely. That's a better way to put it. I really love just hiding nothing. You don't have to feel pressure to talk about things that you don't want to talk about, but just being vulnerable, it's almost like a weight off your shoulder in another way, depending on what you're talking about. Sharing your experiences and also knowing that you're not alone because if other people are sharing, you know that one, you're not crazy. Two, again, you're not alone and other people are still able to live a great life, even though you share this negative experience. But on the flip side, positive experiences, you're just sharing the love.
And especially with like I guess anybody's upbringing or like maybe like a very traumatic event, sometimes what you're able to turn your traumatic event into can be the most like beautiful thing in the world because you can really connect with someone else going through something very similar or the emotions were also felt the same way. And I think visual art as a general, and I don't mean any slack to any musicians listening, I really think that visual art will always take the cake on like what it means to really connect with somebody because they're looking at something, they're something speaking to them and they see a visual representation of it, and it's exactly it. It's like it's so beautiful, it can be so traumatic, it can be so negative, but finding that vulnerability to be genuine, be honest with yourself, be honest with people around you is beautiful. Like that's beautiful. I don't know if the words commend you. Like I think that means like congratulations. But I think that is such a beautiful answer. These final three questions for you are the hardest of the In Your Studio podcast. And I apologize. This is where it really
Okay.
gets the brains going. Not limited to one medium at all. Put the FTI community onto some new things that you're checking out in your life, like music, films, anything and everything.
Okay. So as far as the first thing that I think of is films, I try to every Sunday watch a new movie and I try to branch out to several different genres. My comfort genre is like contemporary romance. Like that's if I want to watch something easy, but I like watching action. I dabble in horror for my friend, even though I hate horror. Um, I and I have a list of all these movies I want to watch, like old movies, new movies, just to appreciate the film industry.
What was the last movie you watched where you were really like kind of like blown away versus expectations going in?
Good question. Again, a bad memory, but the actual last movie that I watched was The Materialist. Have you heard of that one?
Heard of it by name, not by watching it.
It has Pedro Pascal. I forget the other actresses, but they're really good. It was very, again, I enjoy cinematography, so I love the colors. It was a very like simple movie, but big emotions, which I really enjoyed.
Now, taking it from Hollywood and bringing it into the circle that is your community online or even in in person to person. Name an independent artist, collective, brand that you really enjoy that you would recommend the FTI community to check out after they've listened to the podcast.
Again, I'm going to bring them up again. Angel.Scape. They they have chapters in their art. You can see how it's changed. They just had a recent change in these last few months where I think they're really testing the waters and feeling more open, instead of feeling, because sometimes you feel stuck to your brand for your audience and you get stuck. But I really am proud of them for branching out and always top tier work.
I think you actually said something right there that's very important, and I have not heard so many people say it. Is you can really be stuck in your brand without growing because it's kind of what you expect your audience to want. I think being just so self aware of that feeling makes you, and everybody has a different definition of success, makes you so much more successful in what your goal is because it's cool to hop on a trend. It's really neat to like really like capture lightning in a bottle, but it's always about the growth and staying true to you. And so that right then and
And
there,
can I add
that's the
something to
cherry on
that?
top. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So what that makes me think of, it's a very simple metaphor or analogy, is I think about favorite foods. If you stick to the same foods, unless, I know for some people they're neurodivergent. That's not what I'm talking about at this time. But if you stick to the same foods, you don't know what you're missing out on. You don't know, oh my gosh, I really love tiramisu and I had no idea. So same thing with my work. I added little by little, but if I never tried it, I never would have known that this really fits and resonates with me.
Yes, like 100 times yes. The old FTI and it's the old FTI is like 2020 to August 2022. We really stayed in the same bubble because the crew I was working with at the time love them all to death. They were an incredible crew to work with. We just never agreed to step forward because there was hesitancy and there was like scared emotions. But when we came back and relaunched in 2024, I hate to say this, but I think it's been the most fun because it's so experimental and you can just you can read the fun from a community perspective looking in. And then it also makes us come up with more like cool ideas, such as like the creator of the week interviewing you, interviewing Mindy Sounds, because we really just kind of get to bounce ideas off each other and it's all fun as opposed to sticking to one lane. And with the final question, and definitely run with this one as far as you want, you gotta plug yourself. Who you not who you are, because we just learned who you are, but where people can find you, what's on the horizon and everything.
Yeah, so the main platform I'm on is Instagram. It is my comfy space. I'm also on TikTok, but that is like, uh, I will post anything and everything there if you want to see more of who I really am as a person, which is really awkward and silly, and very dark humor as well sometimes. Those are the two main places I'm at. I've tested around with Threads and some other platforms, and again, it's the empty void. So, but we'll see. And as far as future projects, this one is really exciting. So I look forward to that whole week. And I'm going to do some more studying to hopefully get out some different kinds of pieces in the future.
Incredible. FTI community, as you've known all week, we've celebrated Mal from Monday to Friday, the weeks before, and we plan on doing it going towards the future, of course. If you would love to check out Mel, because I know you would, you can find her at HoneyNDew.Art on Instagram, TikTok, as well as she mentioned. But with that, we're going to put a bow on this. I hope everybody has a fantastic day at work. If you're driving to work, just don't sleep on your drive to work. I got to come up with a better ender. I say that every time when I cringe in post editing. Have a good night, everybody. Have a great day. We'll catch you later.